gonna try to find out when the time comes. So, what's on your mind? What's on the dock? On the docket?
Seaspiracy, watching that. It's like we see stuff like that all the time. Like when we were younger, we saw how animals were just brutally slaughtered and shit like that, and why you should be vegetarian, or like in a health class. It's not really telling you why you should be vegan, but it's just making you aware of the whole how horrible it is, but we don't do anything about it.
Yeah, like
But
farming and on a
in health
corporate
class,
level.
it was more of like a brutality awareness instead of like environmental awareness type of thing. So I think that's, I mean, still brutality is horrible if you're empathetic in any way to life,
Mm-hmm.
and you're like, that's horrible. But
Mm-hmm.
adding the environment to it makes it even more serious. You just, I would hope you would take it seriously. And
So
I've seen
this is public school. This isn't.
Yeah,
Okay.
this was like
That's what I thought.
8th grade or
Okay.
9th grade
Okay,
that I took health class.
that makes sense.
But and then Seaspiracy kind of just reignited that flame of like wanting to do something different, not eat meat. And either way, it's like the shit that we're eating isn't even good for you in the first place. I mean, you take into account like, yeah, you have proteins and this and that, but all of the genetically modified organisms within the food, all of the microplastics, the parasites in the meat. Parasites aren't the right word. It's like micro worms and stuff like that that we have with like in our intestines.
Or like that when you handed me your phone and it was the TikTok and just showing all that garbage that gets mulched up and fed to the hogs that eventually land on our plate at our table.
Yeah, and it's legal.
No morals.
It's legal.
Yeah, just the moral.
It doesn't.
There's no morals when it comes to corporate or big business.
And there's no
none.
Why is there's like laws that make it to where you don't have to. I don't know actually, but it seems like there would have to be a voting for people to allow that something like this to happen, where you voted in, but there's loopholes to where they can just do whatever they want without.
Well, not only that, until something is a law, it's not illegal. Way back when ecstasy, this would have been 96, 97, when ecstasy first started being a thing, you could order it out of a magazine. A buddy of mine that I worked with even told me, he was like, you should order a shit ton of it now, and you'll be able to make a good amount of money on it, because soon the FDA is going to put the axe to this and it won't be legal to possess anymore. And I mean, I was building sunroofs online, so it's not like I was, had money in my pocket or, was going to spend money like that to sit on it. But it goes back to, ecstasy was actually legal, if you can imagine that. And it's not that ecstasy was legal, it just wasn't illegal. So until you make laws that specifically determine that one thing or another is illegal to do, then you can do it. There probably were some laws put into place, because like I've seen on the TikTok, he mentioned that this is legal in 27 states. So there must have been some type of laws on the books that were probably written in the 1800s or early 1900s, when farms started getting real big, that people just didn't want those farms feeding pigs and hogs and horses actual trash and garbage, before plastic was even a thing. But to see that is just horrifying, and I mean, it's the same type of thing with the seaspiracy.
It said 5 million sharks are killed per minute.
Every minute?
Yeah, I'm almost positive.
that's a staggering number. Um, that'd have to be a lot. I mean, there's
That's
billions
what
of
I-
people on
I
the
mean,
face of the earth, so
the
And
stats are insane.
what I think is crazy
Okay,
is
I was way off,
okay.
which I mean, but still 30,000 sharks every hour. 300 dolphins, whales, and porpoises are killed per year, and fishing has wiped out 90% of the world's large fish.
Yeah. And it's crazy because there was a report back in the 70s where the the guy that was the head of it, or the organization that did it, said you could never overfish the ocean. It's so abundant. And here 40 years, 50 years later, it's like
Almost freaking done.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was another stat. It was like if fishing keeps on the way that it is right now, by 2048 the ocean will be empty.
I believe that. My whole thing on that is, of course, big business and your elites, they leave everything up to us that really don't go anywhere, don't really do anything, especially compared to what how those elites live. Yet they act like it's up to us when really what it's up to is big business. Seaspiracy is the perfect example. Here you have a fishery industry that makes billions of dollars a year, yet it's still subsidized by how many billions? Do you remember the number?
It's like 4.68 billion.
Okay, so under $4.7 billion, it's subsidized, yet they still make all this money from. So you got, and it's not the guys that are on the boat, of course. It's the guy, well, that is on his own boat, or up in his Lear jet that just gets to sit there and watch the number in these accounts that you don't even see a dollar or a penny of it, and they don't care about that. They just like to see this number grow and grow.
Well,
and grow.
it's for I can't remember the organization, but it said it's like on labels that it's dolphin, like
Yes.
they don't catch dolphins or whatever, and it's guaranteed.
Dolphin safe tuna.
Yeah, and they have that guaranteed, the label. And then he went straight to the CEO of that business, and he says, well, no, it's not guaranteed, and basically just going around it. And at the end of the interview, he was like, well, it's guaranteed as much as life can be difficult sometimes, or the world is hard sometimes. And I mean, I guess in his
it was
position,
absolute bullshit.
I guess in his position, he has people higher up than him that's making him
well, most definitely he has
make those decisions, and then he has to make a certain amount of money. So then he's got to, if he wants to keep his job, this and that. But then it comes to integrity at the end of the day. So if you're going to be not only honest with yourself, but honest with literally the people of America.
Well, and that is where people like you and I can do something about it. You simply don't buy the products. That's a pretty big undertaking. But as far as whatever CEO is, you're talking about, most definitely that company is owned by stockholders. So, and the stockholder is what you would call the general public, but again, it goes back to the elites that kind of, the top 1% own 99%. So it's a debacle. But basically, the CEO, it's not like he has the person that he has to answer to are the stockholders. That's who elects him to be the CEO, usually.
Well, so the stockholders, you're saying those are the people that are just worried about getting the money in their pocket?
Well, you want a good return on the money that you have invested in that company.
Well, because that's basically like the whole reason why they aren't changing what they're doing is because that's how they make the most money, and they
Mhm.
can't. The way they make the money, they can't guarantee that there's not dolphins.
Right.
And it's called a bycatch or something like that.
Yeah.
Where
It's what you're catching with everything else.
Yeah.
That you're
then-
you're after tuna, but you're catching everything else in the
Mhm.
net also.
I can't remember exactly this statistic either, other than the number was way different. It was like the amount of land animals killed takes up, let's say, 25,000 acres of land, and then the amount of fish killed by troweling is 4,370.
Trawling or trolling?
I think it's trout. It's TRAW.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, you're right then.
4,317 or some shit like that. Acres, 1,000 acres.
Kind of back up. What are you telling me again?
Basically, there's under the ocean, the amount of land that is like wiped out of livestock, or not livestock, it would be
Right.
fish.
Yeah, but if we're comparing, then livestock is kind of the word that you would use if you're comparing.
Well, I'm
with
comparing the
dry land.
fish to livestock,
Right. Mm-hmm.
and it's like a number, freaking quadruple the amount of land under the ocean that is like completely wiped out because of troweling. The troweling nets that they'll pull.
Yeah, because they skim across. They skim on the bottom.
And they're big enough to fit around a coliseum.
Yeah.
That's huge. That's
it's
humongous.
Sad. And they show the ships up above that net, and it's not one ship. It's it's a fleet of ships that are dragging this.
I think it's one ship.
Oh,
pretty sure it's one ship.
Pretty big ship.
Yeah, and then this statistic is crazy too. There was one back in the 1830s or whatever.
19 or 18?
18.
Okay.
It definitely was 1800s.
Oh, okay.
It said 1800s, early or late 1800s. Anyways, one ship that had like 2 nets on each side could catch 1 to 2 tons of whatever fish in a day. And then you have a whole fleet of those same exact ships with the 2 nets on them will only catch 1 to 2 tons of fish in a year. Because that's how much we've taken out.
And to fix that, what we have to do?
Just stop eating the shit.
Yeah, leave it alone.
That's what I'm saying. That's like the best thing we can do right now.
And then everybody wonders about the bleaching of all the coral and this and that, and everybody says we want something done about it, but then everybody goes and buys the bullshit.
And then that's another thing.
Everybody talks about plastic, and then they go to Walmart and buy all that Chinese shit. We talk about China and this and that. China wouldn't be China without Americans buying their bullshit.
Yeah.
Period.
But another thing
that's like what's going on in Ukraine. They're gonna put sanctions on them. We're still buying crude oil from Russia every day because we're writing laws that you can't produce oil on our soil. Can't produce oil from our own soil, so we're gonna buy oil from the country that we're trying to put sanctions on. When you have leaders that are like that, there's not a whole lot that can be done. And then they blame you and I. They say you and I need to fill the void. Because they're doing good at their job.
I don't know how that makes any logical sense.
It doesn't.
Yeah, I guess a lot of the shit they do doesn't make any logical sense.
It does not.
Almost all of it.
And
then you
it's
still have
all
people
just a big soup of hypocrisy and money and control.
Yeah, and you still have people that defend the government, which it's like, how can you defend?
Yeah, I don't know when all that started happening. When I found out that Rage Against the Machine was back in the vaccines and everything, I'm like,
Whoa.
I'm like, you
Really?
brought, right, it's like you brought us all up.
I didn't know
you
that.
know,
That's
saying
funny.
fight the power. You didn't know that?
Uh-uh.
You're learning this right now
Yeah.
in real time.
Yeah. That's crazy.
Dude, and I know that you hate my politics, and I know that you walk away when the news is on, and I know that I shouldn't watch it so much, but that right there is why. And that's like, I'm not going to name names or anything, but, you know, other people that are close to us or should be close to us, you know, that say, well, you just get your news from one place. No, I used to get my news from all over the place. I used to watch the nightly news. Remember, hon, how I would be like, this is my one chance to actually watch the nightly news. Do you remember? Because it'd be very, very rare that I would be home at that time to actually watch it. So it was a big deal for me.
Right.
Well, ever since ever since the last 2 years Obama was in office, and then after Trump got in, just to watch them, and you know that all they're doing is spewing propaganda. I couldn't watch it anymore. So that's why I searched out where I should get my news, and I get it from a lot of different avenues, and that's why I know about it and you don't. So go ahead.
My argument against that is that all news is 90% of it, at least 90% of it, is owned by the 1%.
Correct.
So all news that you're getting, whether it's conservative or Republican sided news or Democratic sided news, is coming from the same narrative. So they're the directive of the divide and conquer, Dad. So when you're watching Fox News, all of these Republicans have these same opinions and scripts, really.
No.
How?
You're
It's like like the
you
food
don't
industry.
watch it, son.
Well, I used to watch the news with you.
Not really. And until you really start watching it, then you will see what I'm talking about. But you are right when it comes to the MSNBC, CNN, CBS, ABC, NBC. All of them are in on it together.
Yeah.
Yes, you will have companies like Fox, maybe a little bit of Newsmax. You'll see them lean in or get directed a little bit that way. It's very rare, and I mean I'm talking from actual experience. And but back to kind of what you're saying, when I would watch the nightly news, and then like say I didn't like whatever anchor they changed, so I would try to watch different. I'd go from NBC to ABC. You're right. They would literally be talking about the same story at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a clip. I think we mentioned it before on it was YouTube or wherever on the internet, where it's one narrative and it's being spoke by the whole nation, all at the same time.
I showed you that on TikTok.
But see, when it comes to Fox, they really are not like that. Newsmax really isn't like that. And now I get a lot of my news from your off sources.
Yeah, like Tim Pool.
Yeah. And that's like, that's why it's funny that people will tell you that Tim Pool leans to the right. He doesn't lean to the right. He leans towards, and
he's like Joe Rogan.
Yeah, but and your rebuttal to what I'm gonna say is gonna be, well, everybody thinks they're talking common sense. No, when you dig into it, that's not how things are. So your Tim Pool, your Joe Rogan, Fox News, because Fox will slam some of the Republicans too.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And so will Tucker. Hannity, I used to watch. And I'm not going to get into details, but for some reason, just not my show, or I would get my news from him also. And what he does is exposes a lot of good things that you need to be
See,
aware of.
So the one,
But,
I guess
I just don't enjoy
where
watching.
the one issue that I have is, and this goes for um, both sides, is censorship. So like you're not allowed to talk about certain things, and I think that the news would be more valuable if they weren't being censored. And I know it's not the people's fault,
Right.
but it's
Censored,
again,
or
it's the
if
media.
if they weren't lopsided,
What do you mean? Like,
leaning towards the left or leaning towards the right, lopsided.
right. Well, and honestly, I don't even mind that because I respect both people's opinions. It's just when you get to extreme, you know.
See,
And it's when it really is, like it seems as if there's like a lack of thought in that direction, or a lack of awareness of what you're even thinking about. Because like if you are on an extreme, like I understand that because I can be extreme with my beliefs or whatever, but it's because I like genuinely think about it. And I guess you know what,
But see, I don't feel I'm extreme.
I'm not saying you're extreme. I'm
I
saying
feel
certain people,
I feel
certain
that
groups.
I may be a little too bothered by what I see, but I'm bothered by the people that are so extreme. And just one thing real quick, and then I'll let you take over again. When I was a kid and we were in school and they were teaching about journalism, they would say journalism was someone that would write a story about the story. And if it was opinions, they would put in the opinion of both sides of the story.
Right.
The story
That's a proper
itself.
journalist.
So almost three, there's always two sides of the story and the truth, but then you let the reader or the listener or the watcher decide. And CNN, MSNBC, your three networks, they're not like that at all.
Right.
Period.
Yes.
They are spinning a story to try to get you to have a certain way of thought every single time, and they will bend it. That's just like all this bullshit they're saying right now about Trump is lifting up Putin and this and that. Then when you look at actions, if you look at actions, it's the Clintons and Biden that are buddy with Putin.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the Trump family didn't get millions of dollars from the Moscow mayor. It wasn't the Trumps selling plutonium to Russia like Hillary Clinton's clan did.
Mm-hmm.
But they will automatically go there because that's what they want you to think, and it works. Mm-hmm. They have most people believing that. Well, which is why I'm sorry. One more real quick. This whole thing about Trump lifting Putin up, and no, Trump was basically saying, and I'm not you think I love Trump, and it's not that I love Trump. It's just I see the common sense, and I see the America first, and that's what we need. But he literally was basically saying, if you're Putin, he was smart for doing what he did. It is rather genius, and you guys played right into his hand, and it wouldn't have happened if I would have been there, because I wouldn't have played into his hand. They spun it, didn't even show the part or let people hear the part of him saying that it was bad and that it wouldn't have happened if he was president. They skip all that. They just give you the two little tidbits that make it sound like he's saying Putin is smart for doing what he did. Mm-hmm. And he's not saying that at all. He did say it was smart, but he was basically saying he played you guys, and you played right into his hand. And now Putin is doing what the left does. He says, no, I'm going in there to take care of the Nazis, and I'm going in there to take care of all the drug addicts. That's what he said. Mm. Yeah. And I'm there to keep peace, because there's a lot of Russians there, and they're getting duped by your drug-addicted Nazis. That's why he's there. He's there for the resources, and because he's mad that Ukraine broke off of uh, the USSR when the Soviet Union fell. And then one last thing about Ukraine, and I swear I'll shut up and you do the rest. I'm serious. When I was like 16, 17, watching Jack Van Impe said, as time goes on and we get even closer to the last days and to the turn of this age, the wars will break out because of this country called Ukraine. And this would have been back in like 92. So, and that would have been about when, communism fell. So, or the USSR fell. Anyhow, there's all that information. If we want to spin back to you did not know that the Rage Against the Machine is with the government, with mandates and wear the mask. The Offspring fired their drummer because their drummer is immune deficient or something like that and did not want to get the vaccine. Some about the condition that he had made it to where the doctors told him, because of if you catch it, it'd probably not be as bad as if you took the vaccine. So he decided not to take the vaccine. They fired him. This is your punk rock roots. So anyway,
I was gonna, at the beginning of it, you were saying journalism and how journalism isn't like that anymore. I still have the opinion, and don't hate me for it, but I still have the opinion that Fox is the same way. I don't think Fox totally stands out from all the rest of them. I mean, I think they also fit into a certain narrative, and
they're definitely Republican.
Well, and
but they still slam Republicans that do stupid shit.
Just because you slam certain people doesn't mean you're not on a certain narrative, though.
But what narrative are they on?
They're on the opposite end. What's the best way I could put it? So you have people that want to get vaccinated, so of course you're going to have a group that doesn't want to get vaccinated.
No, they never said we don't want you to get vaccinated. They said
at the beginning of COVID, because I remember seeing a lot of news that was saying you shouldn't get the vaccine.
But that was the Democrats.
No, in the
I'm sorry, son. You got to go back and look. Biden and Harris, when they were asked, and it was the election was coming up, Biden and Harris both said, if Trump's in power and there's a vaccine, nope, I'm not taking it, not at all. And then when they won the election that day, they said everybody needs to be vaccinated. It's the same vaccine.
Yeah, and that's that's my point. At the end of it, it's like.
But that's my point.
They're being direct. They're okay.
But that's
whoever
my point
said
on
it.
Fox.
Whoever said it first. It doesn't matter. What matters, Dad.
It confuses me, son. Because I'm sorry, but wait, you're telling me that Fox leans a certain narrative, just like the left has a narrative, and I'm like, well, what narrative is that? And then you brought up the vaccine and saying don't take the vaccine, and I was like, well, don't want to fact check you on the spot, but when it all started out, it was actually Harris and Biden saying that they wouldn't take the vaccine if it was Trump's vaccine. But then as soon as they got into power, it was all about take the vaccine, and it's the same vaccine.
Oh, I gotta go.
Fox.
Last thing.
All Fox said was it should be your decision. It should not be pushed upon you. You go to your doctor, you talk about it. If your doctor says you're a great candidate for the vaccine, do you want the vaccine? Well, I'm 22 years old. The vaccine scares me. There's not enough information about it. It's
because I gotta go. Let me just say this. What I'm saying is it makes sense that Biden and Harris would say, oh, no, I'm not taking the vaccine if Trump is in office, because that literally fuels the fire for bashing heads. And my whole point is like there will never be a medium, like you'll never meet in the middle, because the narrative is to bash heads, is to have anger be your driving force of the country.
But I don't believe Fox is like that.
Right.
Fox wants you to
I'm
make
saying
your own
I
decision.
do. I'm saying that I do think that Fox does that.
But why? What specifically?
Because I don't think Fox is independent from the media.
But I'm saying specifically.
Yeah,
what specific instance that you seen the words you heard and you said that's right-wing propaganda? That's not common sense. That's hypocrisy. That's what I'm hearing right now.
I mean, I wouldn't call it hypocrisy. I don't know if I would even call it propaganda. I would just call it something that follows a certain belief pattern or agenda. Yeah, I mean,
but you can't tell me really what that agenda is.
I said it in the beginning, like vaccine or no vaccine.
But I'm trying to explain to you that they never said don't take the vaccine.
Okay,
they just said if your employer is telling you if you don't take the vaccine you're fired, that's wrong. That's what they said.
I just remember seeing something I remember it was Tucker.
Well, try to look it up and show it to me.
But I do really actually have to go. It's 2:30. Okay.
Well, we'll get more on the seaspiracy next time, and we're going to stick on the seaspiracy.
Well, no, like I said, it's fun to break